I just tried a new mic that I did not like. But hello everyone, this is Andre from Design Reserve, and today we're gonna make a really quick abstract wallpaper for your iPad or iPhone or tablet or Android or whatever screen you're really using. Alright, so let's just get into it from the very beginning. I made a project for a client and I really like how it turned out, and I really wanted to kind of experiment and see where I could take it. I got some really nice high quality renders out of it, and so I just want to experiment today with making an abstract wallpaper for your iPhone or iPad or whatever device you may be using. And actually we're going to be using something called Metaballs. I know it was all the rage in 2016 and everybody was using Metaballs, and people don't really use them as much anymore, but we're going to use them in this particular piece mostly because I like the curves that it creates, and it creates kind of unique architecture in shapes, if that makes sense. To begin, we're just going to make a sphere. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. It'll be like 47 for the radius. Bump my segments up to like 74. Change my type to isosahedron and turn off render perfect. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to go up to our MoGraph tab, grab a cloner, make our sphere a child of the cloner, go to our object tab, change this to grid array. I like to space things out a little bit, so we're going to bump everything to 400 by 400 by 400, and we're going to populate this space with more metaballs just so we have a little bit more unique things happening in our scene. Actually, let's change this to 500 just so we have a little bit more space. 500, 500, 500. Increase our count. Let's see. Okay, 6 is where it's probably the sweet spot for everything to fit. 6 on each side. I don't care if you think that's scary or not. Now what we're going to do, we're going to click on our cloner, go up to our MoGraph, effectors, and add a random effector in. It's going to move them all around. Our random mode currently does not move, and we do want things to move. You know, because you might want to turn this into an animation, but also if you allow it to move, it'll allow you to experiment with different looks inside this particular technique. So we're going to change this random type to noise. And you see now it moves a little bit just like that. We're going to go to our parameters and we're going to bump these up because we want it to move a lot. Not a lot, we want to give it a lot of space to move in. So we're going to change these from 50 to 300 on all sides. Actually, we're going to boost this even a little bit more. Let's try 400. And we're going to see it's going to start moving. But now it's moving faster because it needs to cover more ground. And honestly, I like it to move slow. So we're going to go to Effector, change our animation speed to something like, let's just see what 4 does right now. Okay, right now, this is, I think I actually found a speed I like a lot right away. Okay, cool. So now to add, here, let's just extend our time just a little bit, just to 5 seconds, just so, oops, that's not 5 seconds. Let's just change it to 5 seconds so it has a little bit more time to breathe. Okay, oh, we want to go back to our random effector. Go to parameters because we're going to add some more uniqueness in these shapes by playing with the scale. So click scale, check uniform scale so everything stays the same, and let's do -2. Okay, that's going to give us some good variation. You can see, let's just take a tour around our shape. What I actually think we can do is make our main sphere a little bit smaller. Let's change this from 47 to 31. If you're new here, I'm really particular about numbers. I just like to use my own angel numbers and how I work. So if I pick a number and you like a different number that's close to that, you can definitely go ahead and pick that. Some of my numbers are rooted in science and math, and not all of them are. This happens to be numbers that are not rooted in such. So now that we got our spheres inside our cloners, we got this moving how we like. It's moving at a good pace. We're gonna go ahead and grab our Metaballs and put that inside of our cloner. Once it's inside our cloner, you see we just got this big mesh. So we're gonna go to our Metaballs. We're gonna click exponential fall off. That's gonna give us a shape that we more closely want. Let's drop our subdivisions down. It's gonna slow your computer down, but let's just drop them down so we can get an actual representation of what we're making here. Now you see we kind of got this blob that moves in and out of itself. Now what we want to do is we want to find a part that's interesting enough. If we zoom in all the way and we don't see any gaps or anything inside here, that will create interesting shapes. And I'm really big on angel numbers, so because we have animations in our object, there's a lot of different still shots that we could potentially get, and you'll see as I swipe through how they may be different in different areas. But I'm really big on angel numbers. Probably my favorite and biggest one is 47. So I'm gonna pick frame 47, and that's where I'm going to find our unique space where we're gonna fill our entire canvas. I actually want these to take up a little bit more space, so I'm going to increase the size of our sphere again. It's a little bit easier for us to work with, but it's not giving us enough unique crevices. Okay, we might have found one on top. Now what if we zoom in here? Check camera on. Alright, I think this is actually a pretty cool pose. So let's create our camera and just set our camera just in case we want to move around some. Let me save this. By clicking the accurate normals checkbox right here, it'll smooth out our object just a little bit more. And now basically from this point on, what we're focused on is lighting and creating a visually appealing shape and texture here for our background. So what we're going to do is go to our Octane settings, change from direct lighting to path tracing. I know when I finish rendering, I'm gonna want about 5,000 samples because I want this to be pretty big. I'm gonna ignore my diffuse depth and specular depth for now because I want to edit them maybe a little bit closer to when we're finished. We're going to drop our GI clamp to 1. Change our render settings, change that to Octane. And we're going to make this a square. I'm going to actually render at 4K. Now what I'm going to do is create another sphere. This is going to be the room that everything is housed in. So I want to make the room big enough to fit our entire object. And this is going to help with lighting, because we're only really going to be affected by the lights that we put in the scene ourselves. So I'm just gonna make this really big. I'm gonna make this about 4,000 centimeters for the radius, all right? And we're gonna put this back on our icosahedron. It actually doesn't matter how many segments. We want takeoff, render perfect, all right? And now what we want to do is we want to add lights to our scene. You see right now we're completely in a dark room. That's why we can only see black here. So now when we add a light, which we're probably covering up our own light right now, and bring this light a little bit closer to us. And now it's really bright. We back it up some. We can start to see the shapes and forms taking place. I want to go to check camera. By taking off check camera, that means that our camera is going to stay in the same place in our live viewer. while we're still working. That way we can move around and see exactly how it affects our scene without going back and forth to the camera. So let's exit our camera. I definitely want a light coming from here and a light coming from here, and maybe a light coming from up here too, like up top here. So I'm gonna move my light over here. Let's rotate it some. And I'm gonna actually make our light smaller. I don't need it to be this big. See, I like how that light's coming from there. And right now I'm just going to set where my lights are, and then later I may play with the color of my lights too, depending on how our textures look. So we're going to copy this light, bring it down here. All right, I like how that looks so far. Now let's just add one more light coming from up here. Okay, I found a lighting setup that I really appreciate. Why did I say it like that? I found a lighting setup that I really like. So now I'm gonna start texturing it. And I'm gonna actually go to our Metaballs, and I'm gonna edit our editor subdivision. I'm gonna drop that down some more just because we're working in a still shot, so I'm not animating, so I'm not gonna be necessarily worried about how slow my computer is going to be actively producing this animation. So let's jump back into our camera and let's start editing our material. We're gonna go for a really shiny, like iridescent material. So I'm gonna grab a specular material from Octane. I'm going to go ahead and apply that to our Metaballs shape. Double click here. I'm gonna boost our index, that's how shiny it is, to 2.47. Again, I like the number 47, that's where it's popping up. I also like 11, that's why I like the number 2, because 1 and 1 is 2. Hit enter there. You see we're starting to get shiny stuff. We're gonna go to our roughness and put 0.11 in our float, just so it doesn't over reflect on itself, because then everything gets too shiny, and you know, once everything gets too shiny, it becomes a cluttered mess. So now, to get an even better color reaction, we're gonna go ahead and change our diffuse to black. Fair enough. So now what we're gonna go to is our film layer, and we're just gonna boost this up a little bit till we start. You see how we're getting some more cool colors? It's starting to look like gas almost, if it's spilled on the street or something like that. It's starting to get a really unique look here. So I always kind of like how 0.21 looks. I don't like how it looks here though, actually. I want a little bit more blue. Okay. All right, I like that. So now something that I tried earlier was playing with the specular. And playing with the specular is changing the color that it reflects as. So right now when it's set to black, it's only reflecting as itself. Not because it's in the diffuse, but it's basically acting like an alpha layer. So now I'm actually gonna turn that on. And I do know that I want my scene to have like a bluish look to it. So I'm gonna go to a blue specular channel. I kind of like closer to that color blue. Let's press OK. It didn't change much now. Okay, because it's not changing much, we're gonna go ahead and play with our film layer too. What happens if we drop? Okay, if we drop our film layer down, it's going to react a lot faster, this gas effect. And if we bring it up, then it reacts really slow. So we're gonna bring it down. And then let's actually turn our lights up a little bit. What happens if we go ahead and do that? Okay, we're starting to get more reflection. Now I'm gonna start adding color to my lights. I'm Go to texture, add a color, and I want a red light coming from up here. Awesome. Now, let's see what happens if we add like a yellow light to the bottom. I don't like that as much. Let's add matching red lights down here. Actually, I did say I wanted my scene to be blue, so let's put a blue light in there. That's a really blue light. And I'm actually gonna make our top light a blue light too, because I know that's getting really good. That's getting a really good look at everything we got going on. So let's change our color to blue here. All right, now let's actually turn down the black on our diffuse because I feel like it's pretty dark. Okay, when we change it to gray, I kind of like how that looks. But I still want it to be maybe a little bit darker. Okay, now let's do what every Octane artist loves. Let's go ahead and add some bloom. All right, we can turn on check camera now. Let's just re-render. Let's turn our bloom up till we like it. See, this is a lot. Our bloom is turned up a lot, but I think it looks so dreamy and so cool. Let's see what happens when we turn on our cutoff. See, and not so much. All right, what I'm actually going to do is I'm gonna add another light in here, just like a big light that will light up our entire scene. And just to give it a little bit more, I'm gonna add this light in here just so I can kind of start to see things a little bit better, so everybody can see things a little bit better. So we're gonna put it on the top of everything. We're gonna bring it pretty high. Let's jump back into our camera. See, that's way too bright, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn this way down. But we still want a little bit of color in there. We still want our scene to be just a little bit brighter. Now let's see what happens if we make this a little bit darker, because it's still in the middle a little bit. Okay. See what happens if we turn our room off. No, I don't like that. Keep our room on. I still want a little bit more brightness in some of our crevices. Okay, maybe if I turn that light up, I should turn this black down just a little bit. Sure if I'm feeling that either. What happens if we change this to white? Absolutely not. So we're gonna have to work with a gray somewhere. I think if we go a little bit darker, let's go to our film layer. Let's actually increase this a little bit more. Let's get a little bit more diversity. Let's see what happens if we change our specular to a deeper blue. What happens if we make it red? Okay, that red responded really well. It's not bad. What happens if we make it a bright color? No, I don't like that as much. What happens if we make it purple? That's pretty good. I want this to be back to black. Okay, I'm starting to like that a little bit more. I should have kept it black to begin with. Let's add another color variation on our light just because. Let's experiment that orange. bad. Let's turn it off. Let's turn this blue off. Right now we're just experimenting with different light colors. I'm looking at where they're affecting everything. What happens if we make our object blue? Let's take a look at that if we make our object blue. So far, I'm not feeling this as much. All right, let's change our color back to black. So far, that was best. This main light, this red, let's actually change this to blue. Let's change this blue light that was originally blue to red. No, let's make this a light blue. Let's zoom out here. Let's try to give us a little bit more light. Awesome. This is looking really interesting, really unique, really abstract. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add a little bit of texture by playing with our bump map, and I'm going to upload a pattern inside there to really give it some more personality in terms of its space. Now, I have this normal pack that I've downloaded from Travis David, or either Travis David or Travis David's. Awesome guy, great tutorials, really nice and approachable if you ever want to talk to him. I've had a couple questions that I've asked him before just about his products that he makes and just Cinema 4D. He responds very quickly, very helpful. So I actually bought a pack of his normal I've bought a pack of his normal maps before, and they're really great. So earlier I was looking at scales. Today, right now, let's look at some geosphere patterns. Geosphere inverted indented pattern. Let's see what this looks like. Okay, it's okay, but very beginner. Okay, I kind of like this. This kind of looks like the flower of life. So let's pick that one. Actually, I think this one. Okay, let's pick this one. This one has a flower of life in it. So let's just drag this into our node editor. Hook it up to our bump channel. And you'll start to see it starting to give it shape. You know, you're starting to see it inside there more, but what I'm actually going to do is I want this to be smaller. So I'm going to come to I'm going to make this smaller. So I'm going to go to my image texture and I'm going to hit this button that says UV transform. I'm going to click on that, and then where it says lock aspect ratio, this is at 1 right now. We're just going to drop this low and we're going to start to see it change here. And we're going to decide if we like this or not, because this could end up not looking how we want it. But normally I drop this way down. don't think I like this one as much. See what happens when we just make all our lights white. Alright, I'm gonna actually change this pattern because I'm not feeling it as much. I'll put this off to the side because we'll still use it. Let's go to scales again. I saw some good ones in scales. Okay, that's an R maybe. No, a little too simple. Okay, I love these actually. I've used these in another project. Let's actually use these. Let's see, pull this in, back to our node editor, drag this into our bump channel, and let's drag our transform back into our transform. See, I think that looks awesome. I kind of don't like how it looks right here. Let's see what our tag is set at. Okay, our projection is set to spherical. Let's change that to, let's see what happens if we press UV. Okay, right now it looks like it stays the same as spherical. Oh, maybe not. Okay, oh, I was wrong. Let's see, sometimes UV doesn't really react well to things like this because there's not actually a real map that's set. So we can usually go to cubic and that'll kind of fix a lot of our woes. Okay, that's starting to look good, but I think now we can actually make our pattern a little bit bigger. So let's go back to our transform and let's just increase the size. Increase it a little bit more. Okay, we're starting to see the pattern, but let's still increase it just a little bit more. You know what, let's do 0.47. Okay, starting to look good. Let's add another light in here. Maybe we just need to get a closer light. I'm still not getting it exactly how I want it. So I'm just going to be blunt about it here. Put a big light right in the middle of everything. Alright, now let's see what happens if we change the color. Play with our specular some. Okay, our specular starts to look better if we have a lighter specular. Duh, why did I not think about that before? I actually really love how this looks right now. I can't believe I was neglecting making a lighter specular color. So let's just drop the power down a little bit. Go back to our original light. Let's make this something maybe like orange. Yeah, and let's actually, what if we change this to orange too? blue and orange usually play off each other really well in scenes where there's more than just blue and orange. But I actually kind of like the dynamic that it's bringing here with some greens. So maybe let's just make a green light, because that might be kind of cool too, like a seafoamish green. Let's make our two main lights that seafoamy green. Okay, let's turn them down just a little bit. I really am loving how this is turning out now that we changed that specular color to something brighter. Let's see, let's change our roughness. Let's increase our roughness just a little bit. Let's try 21. Awesome. I don't think we're going to use this light anymore because I'm not getting much. We're not going to use this light anymore because I'm not getting much difference from it. So let's just get rid of it. And this light, you can see, is affecting us right here, maybe a little bit right there. Let's actually play with the color of this light because I think that'll give us a cool effect. Now, what if we made it something like yellow? See, there's a little bit change in there, but let's see if we can get something a little bit more dramatic. So let's maybe go to like a bluish purple for this light. If we bring it down just a little bit, it's just adding just a little bit more for us, just a little bit more personality. Do we like pink? I'm thinking I kind of like the purple the best, but what can we do to give it a little bit more shine? This light, bring it just a little bit further up. Let's get back into everything. Alright, so we're starting to see a little bit more of that purple showing up, but let's just bring it a little bit closer. Maneuver around here, bring it over, bring it down, and let's get back into our camera. Okay, we're starting to see it a little bit more. Now let's tilt it down, move it over. Let's see, where are we? Let's get a little bit closer. This is not what we want. We want this to be pointing towards our scene. Alright, now let's get closer. Alright, now one thing we're going to do, let's make sure all of these cameras are hidden from let's make sure all of these lights are hidden from our camera. So we're just going to go grab our tag, turn off camera visibility. Alright, personally, I think this looks awesome. I think we're about done. So now what I'm going to do is just hit render, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're done. Alright everyone, so while this is rendering, I figured I would take the moment just to talk to you guys about what we got going on. This will actually be available, this wallpaper will be available to download in the Design Reserve store, along with 2 or 3 other iPad wallpapers. Also, we're working on a new animation bundle at Design Reserve, Loops for Producers 2, that'll be out very soon. Still finalizing a couple animations there, but you'll find some animations like the one we made today inside that pack. Other than that, you can follow us on Twitter at Design Reserve. We always have new content there. We do themed weeks where we post content related to different topics and so on and so forth. We're always available if you have any questions, so feel free to hit us up.